The forgotten warnings. The planet was dead. Dust storms howled across cracked stone valleys. Broken mountains stretched like the bones of ancient beasts. No life stirred. No sound remained, except the endless, lonely wind. High above the dead world, the Varkeen exploration ship hovered. Its dark silver hull gleamed under the weak light of a dying sun. Inside, Commander Thrask watched the scanners flash and beep, his sharp claws tapping impatiently on the console. Another worthless rock, one of his officers muttered. Thrask grunted. The Council insists we search. They believe this system once belonged to the ancients. The officer snorted. Legends and ghost stories. Thrask said nothing. Part of him agreed. Tales of an ancient species that ruled the stars before memory itself seemed foolish. No records, no monuments, no survivors. Only whispers in the dark corners of the galaxy. Still, orders were orders. Prepare landing party, Thrask ordered. We will see if these ghosts left anything behind. Soon a sleek landing craft sliced through the thick, dusty atmosphere. It settled on a cracked plain near a jagged cliff. Thrask stepped onto the surface, his armored boots sinking slightly into the soft dust. The air was thin and bitter. Machines buzzed and clicked around him as the Varkeen team scanned the area. Then, they found it. Hidden beneath a layer of dust carved into the cliff face were symbols. Deep, wide cuts made by tools or perhaps even hands. Lines spiraled outward, forming images almost too large to understand. Thrask brushed away more dust, revealing a massive mural. His breath caught. The figures were strange. Upright, bipedal, with soft features. Their bodies were less armored than any known species. No claws, no scales, no fangs. And yet, they stood proud, surrounded by stars and strange, shining machines. Weapons floated around them like obedient pets. Giant ships rose behind them, swallowing whole planets in shadow. At the center of it all stood a single figure, hand-raised, wearing what looked like a simple cloak. Not a conqueror, but a ruler. What species is this? One officer asked. Thrask stared, frowning. Unknown. Primitive, another officer said. Look at them. No armor, no weapons in hand. Weak. But Thrask felt something cold slide down his spine. Weak? No. There was power in these carvings, not brute strength. Something older, something deeper. He moved closer, tracing one of the lines with a gloved finger. Tiny symbols ran along the bottom of the mural, writing, but not in any language Thrask recognized. He activated his translator. The machine whirred and clicked. Then a few broken words flashed on the screen. Remember. When we return, Thrask's scales prickled. Return? He turned to his officers. Take scans of everything. We leave at once. The team packed quickly, but some laughed as they worked. Ghost stories, one said, kicking dust over part of the mural. If they ruled the stars, where are they now? Another joked. Thrask said nothing. As they lifted off, the winds rose higher, uncovering more of the cliff face. Beneath the first mural, hidden deeper in the rock, was another image. This one showed the same soft creatures, but this time, their faces were fierce, their hands stained with fire and blood. Alien empires bowed before them. Broken worlds floated behind them, and carved in deep letters, simple and chilling, we sleep, we watch, we will awaken. But the Varkeen never saw it. They soared into the sky, laughing, thinking they had found only the remnants of a forgotten people. They did not know they had knocked on a door that should have remained closed. High above, in the blackness of space, far beyond the reach of any modern ship, an ancient beacon flickered to life. Its signal was old, older than any star still burning. It pulsed once, twice, 3 times. Across the galaxy, deep in the cold void, something stirred. Machines older than history blinked awake. In the quiet homes of distant human colonies, dreams turned strange. Children whispered in forgotten tongues. Old instincts, long buried, scratched at the walls of sleeping minds. The Varkeen thought they had found a dead world. They had found a warning. And they had not listened. The true rulers of the stars were stirring, once more, and this time, they would not be merciful. The missing fleet space was quiet along the edge of human space. Too quiet. The Varkeen fleet captain, Sorlak, sat rigidly in his command chair, his eyes locked on the empty void outside the window. 12 warships patrolled, the black, each armed with enough firepower to crush planets if needed, and yet, something felt wrong. No signals, his comm officer reported. No movement. Nothing. Sorlak growled deep in his throat. This was supposed to be a simple patrol. Show force. Remind the humans they were being watched. But the stars felt colder today. A sharp ping echoed from the long-range scanner. Sorlak leaned forward. Report. Unknown object bearing 113, the officer said. No heat signature, no transponder. Sorlak narrowed his eyes. Put it on screen. The view flickered. There, floating through the dark, was a ship. No, a wreck. The hull was twisted, beyond recognition. Metal looked melted, almost as if some great invisible hand had crushed it like paper. Pieces drifted slowly around the remains, but there were no blast marks, no impact craters, no sign of weapons. Identify, Sorlak ordered. The officers scrambled, pulling up old files. One gasped aloud. Captain, that was the Dreadclaw. Sorlak felt his blood run cold. The Dreadclaw was one of the most powerful warships in the fleet. Heavily armored, fully armed, and it had vanished 6 weeks ago without sending a single distress signal. Everyone had assumed pirates or engine failure. But this was something else. Scan for life signs, Sorlak barked. Seconds later, the officer shook his head. None. Black box gone. Sorlak's claws tapped the chair arm. His instinct screamed at him to run, to turn the fleet around and flee. But pride was a heavy chain. Move closer, he ordered. The fleet drifted toward the wreckage. Then the second ship appeared. It floated from behind a broken asteroid. Another corpse. The Iron Fang. Missing for 2 months. Same signs. Melted hull. No battle damage. No survivors. Panic rippled through the fleet. Captain, the comms officer said, voice shaking. Request to withdraw. This is cursed space. Sorlak hesitated. He opened his mouth to order a retreat. And that was when the lights failed. The entire bridge plunged into darkness. Alarms blared. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in bloody red hues. Report, Sorlak roared. Systems, offline, an engineer shouted. It's not an attack. Something is overriding us. On the main screen, new shapes appeared. Ghostly forms, huge and silent, moving through the void with impossible speed. No heat. No signals. They looked almost like ships, but sleeker, older, wrong. One of the officers screamed. Sorlak grabbed him. What is it? The officer pointed at the screen, trembling. Those markings and on the hulls. I saw them in the briefing. Sorlak stared. Etched into the ghost ships were strange symbols. Not alien, not machine. Something older. Something human. Sorlak's blood turned to ice. Before he could react, the ships vanished, moving so fast that no scanner could track them. One moment, empty space. The next, 6 Varkeen warships were gone. Not destroyed, just gone. No explosions, no debris, vanished like mist in the morning sun. Sorlak grabbed the emergency beacon and smashed his claw against it. All units retreat, he roared. Repeat, all units retreat. The fleet turned, engines screaming. But the darkness followed. Ships winked out one by one. Sorlak's own ship shuddered violently. Through the viewport, he caught a glimpse of something approaching. Something massive, ancient, wrapped in coils of mist and shadow. A ship, no, a fortress, of impossible design. Its surface was covered in carvings, the same carvings found on the dead world. We were wrong, Sorlak whispered. He turned to his officers, but they were already slumped over their consoles, unconscious or dead. Alone, Sorlak slumped back into his chair. A voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect Varkeen, but cold, hollow, emotionless. The stars were ours before you crawled from your holes. You forgot. We remember. The last thing Sorlak saw was the dark shape closing around his ship, silent and inevitable as death itself. Then, nothing. The Varkeen Council received his distress signal days later. It contained only static and a single chilling image. A human, handprint burned into a piece of melted metal, floating alone in the void. Panic spread across the galaxy. For the first time in living memory, the alien empires realized they were not alone at the top. Something older, something stronger, something human had returned, and it was too late to stop them. The ancient human coditor. Selvar was not a soldier. He was not a spy or a leader. He was a historian, a quiet thinker who spent his life digging through forgotten ruins and broken data archives. But today, standing alone in the cold archives of the Galactic Council, Dr. Selvar held something more dangerous than any weapon. A secret. The message had come through hidden layers of ancient code, buried deep beneath human communication networks. It was not a message sent by humans today or even in recent history. It was old. Older than any living memory. Older than most stars still burning in the night sky. His hands shook as he replayed the decoded file again. A simple sentence spoken, in a language no alien had ever fully understood. Ancient Earth standard, so pure that even the most advanced translators struggled with it. The seeds have been planted. When the stars dim and the children forget, the blood will awaken. Selvar's mind raced. The seeds, the children, the blood. He pulled up the history files comparing genetic data across thousands of human colonies. What he found made him sit down heavily, buried deep inside human DNA, too deep for modern science, to notice when these were dormant patterns, locked memories, abilities beyond normal understanding, codes written not for survival, but for rebirth. A cold realization swept over him. Humans were not young. They were not primitive. They were old, the oldest. The caretakers of the first empires, the builders of the first cities among the stars, the ones who had shaped the galaxy when other races were still crawling in caves. And for reasons unknown, they had chosen to forget, to hide, to sleep. Until now. Selvar's mind flashed back to the rumors, the missing fleets, the ghost ships, the ancient symbols found on dead worlds. The awakening had begun, and no one could stop it. He reached for his communicator, his fingers trembling. Priority message to Council High Command, he said. The machine blinked. State urgency level. Selvar closed his eyes for a moment, gathering his courage. Then he said, extinction level threat. Moments later, he was patched into a secure channel. The faces of the Galactic Council leaders appeared. The towering Varkeen warlords, the sleek and cold Hyrelian scientists, the glittering minds of the Tharn Collective. They all looked impatient, bored. One counselor sneered. A historian calls an extinction alert? Has the dust finally eaten your brain? Selvar ignored the insult. He sent the decoded message through the link. Silence fell, then murmurs, then fear. This is fake, another counselor snapped. Human propaganda. Selvar slammed his hand on the table. Look at the DNA records, he shouted. Study their technological rise. No species evolves that fast unless they are remembering, not learning. The counselors argued among themselves, their faces growing pale. Selvar pressed on. They were never your inferiors, he said. They were your creators, your architects. You are not the masters of the galaxy. You are living in their ruins. One Varkeen general growled. Then why did they fall? Why did they sleep? Selvar shook his head. Maybe mercy, maybe guilt, maybe something worse. But it doesn't matter. The awakening has started, and we are already too late to stop it. The council fell into chaos. Orders flew. War fleets were summoned. Plans to suppress humanity were drawn in desperation. But Selvar knew the truth. No fleet could stop what was coming because humans were not rising to power. They were remembering it, across human worlds. Strange things began to happen. A farmer on a backwater colony repaired a broken starship engine with his bare hands, using designs no modern engineer had ever seen. A child in a mining town spoke to ancient satellites buried for millennia beneath the ground, waking them with a single whispered word. Soldiers on frontier outposts moved faster than sensors could track, reacting to attacks before they happened. On Earth, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, an ancient structure long thought to be a myth, the Cradle Vault, pulsed to life, sending signals across space. Humanity was changing. No, it was returning. Selvar watched the news feeds with growing horror. He saw fleets vanish. He saw alien soldiers refuse to fight, their instincts screaming that something ancient and terrible now walked among them. He saw empires built over thousands of years begin to crumble, not under human attack, but under the weight of a truth too big to deny. Humans were not the new species. They were the originals, and they were awakening. Selvar closed his datapad, his heart heavy. He knew what would come next. Not a war, not a conquest. Something deeper. A rewriting of reality itself. Because, once the elder blood fully woke, the galaxy would never be the same, and those who had mocked humanity would learn fear, the kind of fear only children feel when they realize the gods they had forgotten have returned. The silent awakenings, at first, it was easy to ignore. Few strange reports, odd stories from faraway human colonies, dreams that left people trembling, machines that should not have worked, waking up at a single human touch. The council dismissed it all. Just coincidence, they said. Just human luck. But the whispers grew louder. On the mining world of Corvus 9, a young boy survived a collapse that should have crushed him. When rescuers found him, he was sitting calmly inside a perfect sphere of invisible energy, untouched by falling rock. In the trade city of Valora Prime, a merchant woman rebuilt an ancient alien engine in a few hours. The design was so old that no living engineer could recognize it, but her hands moved without hesitation, as if guided by something older than thought. On Earth itself, deep in the forests and oceans, hidden places long forgotten began to stir. Old structures, old machines waiting, and the humans, ordinary farmers, traders, teachers, heard the call. They woke without knowing why, speaking words in dead languages. They felt the pull of the stars. They built things they did not remember learning. The alien species watching them grew afraid. Very afraid. In secret, the council dispatched observers, spies hidden among human colonies, tasked with watching and reporting. They did not return. The few who did sent back fragmented messages, their voices filled with terror. They are changing, one whispered before his transmission ended in static. They are not evolving. They are remembering. On the cold world of Atron Delta, a simple farming town became the center of an event no sensor could explain. A human woman named Mara walked into the center of the fields during a solar storm. She raised her hands, and the storm parted around her like water around a stone. Aliens hidden nearby watched in horror as ancient machines buried under the soil for millions of years burst from the ground and hovered around her. Mara said nothing. She only smiled, a sad, ancient smile. Then she vanished into the sky, leaving no trace behind. Across human space it happened again and again. Small miracles. Impossible knowledge. Impossible strength. The old blood was awakening. Quietly, surely. Like the tide, rising against stone walls. The council panicked. Emergency meetings were called. Some factions demanded war. An immediate, total strike against humanity before it was too late. Others hesitated. How do you fight an enemy who does not even know? They are your enemy yet? How do you fight a memory? Inside the human governments, confusion spread. They saw the changes too. The way their people were moving faster, thinking sharper, working with strange technologies that should have taken centuries to master. Some tried to control it. Some tried to hide it. But it was like trying to hold back the ocean with bare hands. The old instincts were too deep. On the frontier world of Eden's Fall, A small human outpost was attacked by a band of Varkeen mercenaries. At first, the humans fought with old weapons, rifles, grenades, tanks. But when the tanks were destroyed and the walls shattered, something ancient rose inside them. The villagers moved as one, without speaking. They used no weapons, yet they tore through. The Varkeen forces like a storm. Hands struck faster than bullets. Minds moved quicker than machines. When reinforcements arrived, the village was silent. The human survivors stood calmly among the ruins, eyes glowing faintly under the twin suns. They did not speak of what happened. They did not need to. The message was clear. The sleeping gods were stirring, and the children of the stars were waking up. In the hidden chambers of the Galactic Council, fear turned into desperation. Secret programs began, genetic weapons, virus bombs, ancient forbidden technologies, anything to slow or stop the awakening. But nothing worked. Humans adapted. They grew stronger. They remembered faster. Somewhere, deep in human space, a signal pulsed once more from the old beacon, reaching out into the darkness. And something vast and ancient, answered. The humans began to dream differently. They dreamed of ships made of starlight. They dreamed of cities bigger than planets. They dreamed of battles fought not with weapons but with will alone. And when they woke, they were no longer just human. They were something else, something the galaxy had not seen in 1,000,000 years. The Elder Race, the firstborn of the stars. The silent awakenings had ended. Soon the galaxy would learn the truth, and the truth would burn. The clash of arrogance the Varkeen Empire had ruled for centuries through strength and fear. No species had dared to challenge them openly. When whispers spread that humanity was changing, most Varkeen leaders laughed. They called humans wild pets who had gotten too proud. They believed a simple show of force would crush any rebellion before it spread. So the Emperor himself sent the Third Strike Fleet, 40 warships, fully armed, fully manned, fully prepared to teach humanity its place. The fleet moved with speed and precision, cutting through the edges of human space like a blade through cloth. Their orders were clear. Capture major human colonies. Destroy any resistance. Remind the galaxy who held true power. On the bridge of the flagship, Commander Zorak sharpened his claws as he studied the map of targets. Earth was not the goal. Not yet. They would hit the frontier worlds first. The weak ones. The message would be clear. But as the fleet moved deeper into human territories, something strange happened. Their ship's sensors began picking up anomalies. Old structures awakening. Fields of unknown energy flashing into existence. Starships moving faster than physics allowed. Zorak dismissed the reports. Primitive tricks, he sneered. Nothing we cannot crush. They chose their first target, a colony called New Haven, a small world, barely defended, only a few thousand settlers. Easy prey. Zorak ordered the attack. The fleet descended like a hammer, weapons blazing, but they did not find farmers with crude rifles. They found warriors who remembered how to bend reality itself. On the open fields of New Haven, the humans waited. They wore no armor. They held no advanced weapons. They simply stood, thousands of them, calm and silent like ancient statues under the twin suns. Zorak's fleet opened fire. Missiles streaked toward the ground, plasma cannons roared, laser beams carved the sky, but just before impact something impossible happened. The humans moved not with fear, not with panic. They moved with purpose. They raised their hands, and the weapons stopped midair. Missiles hung frozen. Beams twisted away harmlessly. Zorak's crew stared in shock. Impossible, one officer gasped. Zorak roared, ordering a second wave. The fleet fired again and again, but each shot was caught, twisted, absorbed. Then the humans advanced. They did not run. They did not hide. They walked calmly through fire and ruin, untouched. Zorak ordered ground troops to land. Thousands of Varkeen soldiers stormed the colony, and in the first few seconds, they realized they had made a fatal mistake. The humans fought with no weapons. They used their minds, their bodies, their very will. Soldiers found themselves thrown through the air without being touched, their weapons jammed or melted in their hands. Their own ships turned against them, systems failing without reason. Zorak watched in horror as his finest warriors fell one by one. No blood, no mercy, just unstoppable, cold precision. On the battlefield, a young human woman stood over a fallen Varkeen general. Her eyes glowed faintly, and when she spoke, her voice echoed across the field like thunder. "We are not rising," she said. "We are remembering." The words rippled through every mind. Zorak screamed for retreat, but it was too late. Ships that tried to flee found themselves caught by invisible forces, engines crushed by unseen hands. Command links failed, navigation systems twisted, sending ships into collisions. The Third Strike Fleet, the pride of the Varkeen Empire, was erased from existence in less than an hour. The few survivors who managed to escape told wild tales of impossible powers, of humans wielding forces no living being should command. The Council of the Galaxy listened in horror. They had thought humans were children. They had thought strength alone could control them. But now, they understood. They had not awakened a rival. They had awakened the elder race, the true owners of the stars, and their arrogance had sealed their doom. On the broken fields of New Haven, the humans stood quietly as the dust settled. No cheers, no celebration. Only the calm silence of a memory fulfilled. Somewhere deep inside their bones, they remembered who they were. And they knew. This was only the beginning. The galaxy had forgotten them, but humans never forgot. They forgave. They slept, but they never forgot. And now, the stars themselves would remember too. The forgotten technologies deep, under the oceans of Earth, something ancient stirred. Hidden for millions of years beneath layers of rock and forgotten history, the cradle vault pulsed with life once more. Beams of soft blue light shot out into the dark water, calling to those who carried the blood of the firstborn. On the surface, across every human world, a new kind of awakening began. It was no longer just memories returning. It was knowledge. Secrets, locked away in the depths of human DNA. Blueprints written not with ink but with instincts. Skills buried so deep that even humanity itself had forgotten they existed. Now, the old memories called louder than ever. On the desert world of Solari, 5, a group of human engineers uncovered a hidden cave system after a minor earthquake. Inside, they found machines made of living metal, still humming softly after endless ages. No alien could understand the designs, but the humans moved among them like children returning home. One by one, the ancient machines recognized them. One by one, the old technology reawakened. A simple touch repaired broken systems. A whispered word activated dormant starships. And these were not ordinary ships. They were vessels of the First Age. Creations that could fold space like cloth, move between galaxies in a heartbeat, and fire weapons that bent the laws of physics themselves. The Galactic Council watched helplessly as humanity leapt forward by thousands of years in mere days. Old fleets that had once ruled the stars returned. Dreadnoughts, the size of moons, living armor that could adapt to any threat. Cities that floated in the clouds, powered by cores of pure light. The humans did not need to invent these things. They only needed to remember them, and they did. Faster than anyone had feared. The Council sent envoys to negotiate, to plead, to offer alliances, but most were never seen again. Those who returned spoke of humans who listened politely, and then simply smiled and said, "We will rebuild what was ours." No threats, no anger, just quiet certainty, and it terrified every ruler in the galaxy. On the ruined battlefield of New Haven, engineers reconstructed a structure called the Vault Key, a device capable of opening hidden doors across the universe. Hidden. Doors that led to caches of technology so advanced that even trying to understand them could drive weaker minds insane. Meanwhile, on Mars, scientists activated an ancient defense grid buried beneath the planet's red sands. 10,000 satellites blinked to life, creating a shield that could block out entire fleets. The Varkeen tried to breach the shield. They failed. Miserably. Their ships melted under invisible waves of energy. No weapons worked. No engines could move. Their cries for help were swallowed by silence. The council realized, too late, that humans were no longer playing the same game. They were playing by rules written before the galaxy was young, and they were winning. Alien spies, sent to observe human worlds, returned with stories of impossible things. Human children repairing broken quantum drives as if they were toys. Villagers rebuilding ancient libraries filled with knowledge lost for eons. Small frontier towns building ships faster than galactic shipyards could dream of. One spy, before his mind broke under the weight of what he had seen, sent a final desperate message. We thought we were the architects of the stars, but we are living in their ruins. They are not building, they are restoring. Fear gripped the alien empires. They had once mocked humanity's weakness. Now they feared humanity's memory. On the outskirts of human space, the first of the ancient, fleets gathered, black ships shaped like living creatures, crystal starcrafts that pulsed with their own hearts, behemoth vessels that carried entire cities inside them. At their head stood the reborn flagship of the First Empire, the Infinity's Edge. No one knew who commanded it. Some said it was an ancient being reborn. Some said it was humanity itself, finally awake. But whatever it was, it did not speak in words. It spoke in action. The fleets moved slowly, steadily, toward the galactic core, not in anger, not in hatred, but in purpose. The purpose of a race that remembered who they were. Oh, race that had shaped the stars before the others had even learned to dream. A race that would shape them again. Those who bowed might survive. Those who resisted would be swept aside like dust. The forgotten technologies had returned. The galaxy would never be the same, and at the heart of it all, the humans moved forward, silent and unstoppable, their eyes glowing faintly with the light of 1 billion ancient suns. The return of the elder race, the galaxy held its breath. Across every empire, every station, every hidden fortress, rulers and warriors watched the slow, unstoppable march of the human fleets. They moved without fear, without pause, without hesitation. Above them, the sky shimmered with shapes not seen since the beginning of time. Living ships, breathing starcraft, weapons that could rewrite the laws of reality. At the center of it all was the flagship, Infinity's Edge, a vessel so old that even the ancient memories of the Tharn scholars trembled at its sight. The Council of Galactic Powers gathered one final time. Their faces were pale, their voices shook. We must unite, the Tharn elder said, his voice a whisper. We must fight together. Fight? The Herelian ambassador snapped. Against what? Against gods waking from their sleep? We have no choice, growled the Varkeen general. If we kneel, we are nothing. So they built their armies. They gathered their fleets. They created weapons that tore holes in the very fabric of space. They prepared for a war that could destroy them all. And still, the humans came. Slow, steady, inevitable. On the first world, to resist, the alien defenders unleashed their full strength. Plasma storms, quantum missiles, gravity bombs. The sky turned into fire and death. For a moment, it seemed they had won. For a moment, hope flickered. Then the humans answered. They did not fire back. They did not unleash their fleets. Instead, one by one, the ancient human ships shifted, folding space around them, moving through attacks as if dancing with the universe itself. Defenders watched helplessly as their weapons turned to dust. Their shields collapsed without warning. Their ships fell apart without a single shot fired. And from the heart of the human fleet, a voice echoed. Across every frequency, every mind, every soul, we have returned. The world surrendered without another shot. Across the galaxy, other rulers tried to stand. Some fought, some begged, some tried to hide. It did not matter. Humans remembered everything now. The building of worlds, the taming of black holes, the forging of peace among stars, and the crushing of those who had forgotten the old laws. Yet they did not destroy everything. They gave choices. Kneel and be part of the new age, or resist and vanish into the dust of history. Some bowed quickly, grateful for mercy. Others fought, and were erased so cleanly that only echoes remained. On the council homeworld of Arcanus Prime, the final meeting took place. The leaders of the once great galactic powers stood before a human envoy. A simple woman dressed in a robe of white and silver, her eyes shining with the light of stars. She spoke softly. "We are not conquerors," she said. "We are not your enemies." She looked at them, not with hate, not with anger, with sadness. "We are your past," she said, "and your future." The council knelt, not out of fear, but because in that moment they remembered something buried deep in every living being, a memory older than time, a memory of warm hands building the first cities, a memory of gentle voices teaching the first words, memory of giants who had watched over them before fading into legend. Humans had been the first, and now they were the last. The elder race had returned, and the galaxy would be shaped once more by their hands, not with war, not with blood, but with the endless, stubborn hope that had always defined them. Across the stars, new cities rose. New alliances were formed. Old hatreds faded. And everywhere, the symbol of humanity, a simple hand reaching toward a star, was carved into walls, into ships, into hearts on earth. The cradle vault opened fully for the first time in millions of years. Inside, it revealed not weapons, not armies, but libraries. Vast halls of knowledge, maps to lost civilizations, blueprints for peace, instructions for healing worlds. The true legacy of the elder race was not destruction. It was creation. It had always been creation. As humanity stepped forward into their rightful place, they reached out hands of friendship to those who had once mocked and feared them. Some accepted, some hesitated. But the future was clear, a future where memory and hope built wonders beyond imagination, a future where the mistakes of the past would not be repeated, and above all, a future where no child of the stars would ever be forgotten again. The last message broadcast across the galaxy was simple. It echoed through every world, every mind, every soul. We remember. Now, so will you. And so, the age of humanity began anew. Not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as the first and the forever.